two cases that we're going to be briefing you up on. The first was the gentleman that y'all just saw as he was being walked out. It's a case that generated quite a bit of interest over the weekend for obvious reasons. We were given this video by our CID in hopes of identifying this suspect. The suspect is seen approaching the door, which he knew there was a camera there, knocking. Once he felt comfortable that there was nobody in the house, it appears that he tries to force entry to the door utilizing a crowbar, and then from inside the house you can hear people inside screaming, and he realizes then that that there's somebody in the house, and it appears that during the course of it he's communicating with somebody on the front curb line. Once he hears the screams, he leaves the residence and goes to an unknown, at this point, suspect vehicle and flees the scene. We put this information out through our mainstream media and, of course, on social media, and it generated quite a bit of interest, being that he's got some pretty distinctive tattoos on his arms. Thankfully, as a result of the extensive media coverage that we got, and then, of course, a bunch of people on social media, we had several tips that came in over the weekend giving us information on who this person might be. We were able to make contact with him, and believe it or not, he came in yesterday overnight and gave an interview to our investigators. Gave some enough information there that I would consider it some partial admissions. He was allowed to leave, and our investigators were able to kind of comb through the information, and they were able to get an arrest warrant for him. That arrest warrant was executed just a little while ago, earlier today, for attempted burglary of habitation with intent to commit theft. It's a third-degree felony, and so he's being booked into the South Tower on that charge there. We are still interested in getting information on who may have been the other suspect in this case. We won't have any information to put out publicly, but we are asking anybody that might have information to shed on who this other person may have been. Please give us a call, 210-335-6000. You can also email us at bcsotips@bear.org. What I can share with you is that this suspect actually doesn't have a criminal history involving burglary. He has a criminal history involving assault, bodily injury, married, which is a Class A misdemeanor from November of 22, and then an unlawfully carrying a weapon, handgun. It's a misdemeanor from November of 21. So this is the first that we can tell that he's been involved in a burglary. But again, we're asking anybody with information to give us a call, 210-335-6000, or you can also email us, bcsotips@bear.org. Esta tarde nosotros arrestamos este sospechoso por un video que nosotros pusimos por medio de la prensa, y luego también en las redes sociales. Se aparenta que este sospechoso el sábado intentó entrar a una casa. Él se nota que primero llega a la casa, ve que hay una cámara cerca de la puerta. Él toca la puerta. Cuando él está seguro que no hay nadie en la casa, él intenta de entrar a la casa a fuerza. Usando una herramienta, él quiere abrir la puerta a fuerza, pero él, mientras que se está comunicando con alguien en la calle, se puede escuchar donde él ya empieza a intentar de entrar a la casa. Alguien dentro de la casa empieza a gritar que están ahí. Él se asusta, se aparenta que se asusta y huyó de la escena cuando menos con otro sospechoso en un carro. Él se escapó en ese momento, o él pensó que se escapó. Gracias a los medios, ustedes que nos ayudaron en poner el video en sus canales y en sus redes sociales, pero también en nuestras redes sociales. Varias personas nos hablaron durante el fin de semana y nos dieron información tocante quién podía ser el sospechoso. Nosotros ayer logramos, sobre la noche, logramos hablar con el sospechoso y él nos dio parcialmente, él se confesó con nosotros que había pasado. Nuestros investigadores aplicaron por una orden de arresto por el sospechoso por intento de cometer robo de una casa. Con el intento de robar. Esta mañana ejecutamos la orden de arresto y lo arrestamos. Ahorita él se está enfrentando con ese cargo. Todavía queremos saber quién era el otro sospechoso y qué carro estaba involucrado en este caso. Entonces les estamos pidiendo al público que otra vez que nos hablen al 210-335-6000 o también nos pueden mandar email bcsotips@bear.org si nos pueden dar información. Any questions on the burglary?
¿En dónde arrestaron al sospechoso?
Me parece que lo arrestamos en la casa sin incidente.
¿Esa casa es 1300 Mérida? ¿Ahí fue el arresto?
En la calle Mérida, sí, señor. El robo, el intento de robar pasó en el noroeste del condado, pero a él lo arrestamos aquí en la ciudad de San Antonio, cerca de aquí.
So you said he came in for an interview. Was requested by you guys, or why did he come in?
We were able to obtain a phone number for him, and we made contact with him. He indicated that he wanted to come in and come clean. He indicated that he fled the location when he realized that it was children inside the house. And as to hear him say it, it was because he realized they were kids and he has a heart. So thankfully for us, we got a burglar with a heart of gold that's considerate of others, especially children, and fled the location. But he did give us at least a partial confession, and we were able to get him into custody today. Without any incident.
So, ¿cuál fue la razón por la que decidió venir con ustedes?
Bueno, él ya sabía que su información estaba ya afuera. El video que enseña los tatuajes, sabía que había personas que nos estaban hablando tocante quién era él. Entonces, él se confesó con nosotros que a él le dio pena cuando se dio cuenta que las personas dentro de la casa eran niños. Y él huyó en ese momento en vez de entrar y ya se confesó con nosotros y lo arrestamos.
Es obvio que él estaba hablando con alguien más, Sheriff. En esta confesión que les dio a ustedes, ¿confesó quién es la persona que estaba con él?
Bueno, hasta ahorita la información está limitada en lo que nos ha dicho él de esta otra persona, pero nosotros ya nos estamos dando cuenta quién es la persona. Entonces, para nosotros será mejor si esta persona, viendo esto, que nos hable será mejor, más le conviene a este sospechoso que venga y se entrega con nosotros antes de que nosotros vayamos para allá a encontrarlo. Any other questions?
Obviously no injuries to anybody there, but any damage to the house?
No, thankfully, the door is pretty strong by the looks of it, and I don't know that he's a very good burglar. So I don't think there was minimal damage to the door. I mean, obviously there was some damage to it based upon the pry tool that was used, but thankfully nobody was injured. But I mean, I can tell you though, the more tragic part of this is there's some kids that are obviously very, very scared from what happened. That's a heart-wrenching situation to hear kiddos inside of a house like that where they should be secure, and instead here they are confronted with a broad daylight burglar trying to break into their home. So I can imagine that whole family is scared, and obviously a whole community is on edge, but we're happy to report that we got this guy into custody sooner rather than later. With that being said, the family did a great job on having the placement of the camera. I mean, that was instrumental in helping us get this information out there. It's good quality video, it's good placement. They did a great job in handling this, and so again, I would use this as a testament to people need to get tools like this. Brand name is really, I can't recommend any certain brand names, but I can tell you that these are invaluable in helping us to not just prevent things from happening, but in identifying folks if it does happen. So kudos to these homeowners from having these security measures in place. And of course, that door is pretty stout by the looks of it as well.
How many kids were in there?
I don't know how many kiddos were in the house. I can just say several, and I believe there was an adult in the home as well. Okay, thank you so much. Let me go ahead and give you the second case that we're reporting on. This gentleman here that you see, using the term loosely, I should say, Ricky Lee Gleason. Ricky Gleason is being booked into the Bexar County Jail right now on 2 warrants: an out-of-county warrant out of Atascosa for theft, $2,500 to $30,000. That is a felony warrant, and then he's got an out-of-state warrant for misdemeanor theft as well. But what brought Mr. Gleason on our radar was that earlier today we received a call from a gentleman who represented a company that had a high-dollar industrial-type generator that was stolen over the weekend. That generator had GPS tracking on it. So that gentleman was able to track the trailer to a property occupied by this suspect here in the 20,300 block of Pleasanton Road. Thankfully, that gentleman did not take matters into his own hands. He called law enforcement and allowed us to make contact. Once we made contact with Mr. Gleason, we also noticed several other vehicles that appear to be stolen as well. We've got several travel trailers, 2 stolen generators, a travel trailer, 2 dump trailers, and a backhoe, several of which have obscured or destroyed serial numbers. And so, I mean, I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to figure out, hopefully they'll have secondary serial numbers and we'll be able to identify those vehicles definitively, aside from the fact that the main serial numbers were obscured. But again, we're putting out these pictures in hopes that the rightful owners of these vehicles can call us and, reclaim their materials. At this point, it's unfortunate, we don't know that we'll be able to arrest him for having possession of about $200,000 worth of stolen vehicles on his property. We're told prosecutors would not accept these cases as they are now. So obviously, we're going to have to do some more investigative work. But for right now, we just want to if anybody sees these vehicles on TV and says things that they may be the rightful owners, please give us a call, 210-335-6000. You can also email us at bcsotips@bear.org, and we'd love to get your vehicles back to you, of course, once we get them positively identified. And we'll continue to work at it to see if we can't bring this through to a successful prosecution. So for now, he is facing charges for those 2 outstanding warrants, and we'll continue to work on any additional charges for the about $200,000 worth of stolen vehicles that we were able to get off of his property. Esta mañana nosotros recibimos una llamada a 20,300 Pleasanton Road por un reporte de una generadora que un hombre, un empleado del dueño de esa máquina, la máquina fue robada durante el fin de semana. Ellos tenían GPS en esa herramienta. Esta mañana ellos encontraron esa generadora en esta propiedad donde este sospechoso vive. El dueño fue para allá, nos habló a nosotros nos encargamos de entrar, ponernos en contacto con el sospechoso, y ya adentro nosotros nos encontramos no nomás esa generadora, pero otra adicional. También una traila de viajes, RV, y luego 2 trailas de construcción y un tractor de construcción. Todo el valor de todos los vehículos que se piensa que son robados es casi los $200,000 de valor de todos los vehículos. Entonces nosotros ahorita quisiéramos buscar quiénes son los dueños y si podemos recoger video cuando estos vehículos fueron robados. Desafortunadamente ahorita no tenemos suficiente evidencia que el DA acepte estos cargos por estos vehículos robados, pero ojalá juntándonos con los dueños, si podemos juntar video de los robos, eso nos ayuda posiblemente con cargos. Ahorita este sospechoso se enfrenta con cargos por 2 órdenes de arresto que él tiene por robos, pero también él asaltó a uno de nuestros oficiales cuando ya lo iban arrestando. Entonces él se va a enfrentar con un cargo por eso también, por la herida al oficial, herida menor, pero sí fue herida que sufrió el oficial en una de las manos, forcejeando con el sospechoso. Let me add that there is an additional charge of resisting arrest with this suspect. During the course of the arrest, he got unruly with one of our deputies, and a deputy had a minor injury to his hand as a result of trying to get this guy into custody. And so he is facing an additional charge with that. But again, we're asking anybody with information on any of these vehicles to please give us a call, 210-335-6000, or you can also email us at bcsotips@bear.org.
El público a lo mejor no va a entender, y esto volvemos a lo mismo, cuando No va a entender el público que si nosotros damos esta noticia de que son artículos robados, ¿cómo es posible que ahora no se le vaya a perseguir por tener en posesión artículos robados? ¿Nos puedes explicar o explicarle al público por qué?
Bueno, sí, para nosotros es una lástima también. A nosotros arrestamos a este sospechoso, lo pescamos con evidencia de vehículos robados. Obviamente los vehículos son robados, pero para nosotros ahorita la fiscalía nos están diciendo que no hay suficiente evidencia que él se los robó esos vehículos. Entonces nosotros por eso estamos poniendo estos videos en las redes sociales y también con ustedes, con las esperanzas que alguien reconoce estos vehículos, nos hablen, posiblemente si tienen video. Para nosotros el caso perfecto fuera que alguien tiene video de su vehículo robado y que podemos identificar este sospechoso y luego ya de ahí hay prueba que este sospechoso se robó esos vehículos, pero es algo que también nosotros ahorita en estos momentos tenemos que seguir trabajando para tratar de ponerle esos cargos. Afortunadamente ahorita él tiene los 3 cargos que él se va a enfrentar, pero nosotros quisiéramos ponerle estos otros cargos de estos vehículos robados.
What was the reason the DA said that he can't be arrested?
From my understanding, the mere possession of stolen property is not enough at this point to prove that he was the one that stole them. It's frustrating for sure. So for us, what we're going to be doing is putting these videos out, these pictures out, again, in hopes that somebody will come forward and say, that's my travel trailer, here's video of it being stolen. And if we can identify, for example, this suspect in that video, then there you go, that's prima facie evidence that he was involved in the theft of that trailer. Absent that, we're hopeful that we can just continue to pursue any and all leads. So again, we're asking anybody with information, call us at 335-6000 or email us at bcsotips@bear.org.
Did he live on that property? Did he own the property?
He did. My understanding is that he rents a part of that property and has use of it. So the landowner himself, we don't believe was involved, but this suspect certainly is.
How big of an acreage area?
It's at least several acres. I think it's a total of 8 acres, and he's occupying the back part of it. So about 4 acres of it is 80 acres. 80 acres. I'm sorry about that.
So did y'all get a tip on this, or how did y'all?
No, well, the gentleman that called us this morning, I guess, works for the company that lost the generator that had GPS, and he was able to call us out there.
¿Qué tan frustrante es para autoridades como ustedes que llegan y se encuentran bingo? O sea, no era nomás el generador, pero de repente ven que hay otros artículos y cosas como un RV que eso valen más de $80,000 y de repente presentan eso. ¿Qué tan frustrante es, Sheriff, para ustedes este tipo de situaciones de protocolo y de burocracia?
Es frustrante para nosotros que nuestros oficiales se ponen a riesgo personal, aunque es nuestro trabajo, pero sí nos ponemos a riesgo personal para arrestar a los responsables de estar en posesión de estos artículos y luego ya de que alguien nos diga que no hay suficiente evidencia que ellos se lo robaron. Es algo que nosotros nos podemos bien frustrados, obviamente, con la situación. Vamos a seguir trabajando con el público y ojalá juntamos la evidencia que nosotros necesitamos para arrestar al sospechoso por esos vehículos.
Ahora, la otra pregunta sería, con todos los años de experiencia que tienes en law enforcement, ¿es entendible, tú puedes entender este caso en particular que te digan que no hay evidencia suficiente o es un caso en que no se entiende?
No se entiende. Para mí, yo también soy un miembro del público y a mí también me han robado cosas. Yo también he sido víctima y una persona como víctima no quiere escuchar eso. Queremos saber que las personas responsables por robarnos algo que nosotros trabajamos bien duro para comprar artículos de lujo así, que no hay manera de que alguien solamente nos pueden robar nuestros artículos personales y luego ya no les hace nada la ley. Para nosotros es importante seguir trabajando en este caso, pero ahorita estamos un poco frustrados con esa regla.
I'm sorry, Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
I know we had moved on from the other case.
Oh, no worries.
Just wanted me to ask, was there any reason that he chose that specific neighborhood to try and go through?
So my understanding, and just telling you what I'm being told, right? He recently ran into some money issues and saw a house that he thought would be an easy mark and decided to go steal some things out of that house to get some money to go pay his bills. I mean, most of us would just go get a job and work for it to deal with our financial issues. Apparently, this guy decided to take it the easy way and go burglarize somebody's house. Thankfully, these homeowners did a great job in helping us get this guy, and the members of the public and the members of the media helped us, did a great job in helping us get this guy in custody for sure.
Sheriff, there's some questions regarding SB4.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Hi.
Hi.
Just real quick regarding SB4, we know that, the pause is looming, whether it will go into effect today.
Sure.
If it does, are there any plans in place on how you will have the
Mhm.
Law Enforcement Act? Do you have anything new that you're implementing?
Sure. We're hoping that my understanding is by 4 o'clock today, we should be learning something. Far be it from me to doubt that government in any form would not move by 4 o'clock if they set that as a deadline, tongue in cheek, right? But what I can tell you is that we're hoping to hear something soon, whether it be by 4 o'clock or tomorrow or whatever. I'm hoping to hear either the law is no longer an issue for us, or it's passing and it is. Either way, we're prepared. Here at the Sheriff's Office, we've actually drafted up a new policy that is going to deal with it and is going to guide how our response goes. We need our deputies to understand that, hey, look, we may not be allowed to tell you can't enforce a law, right? That's not what we're saying. What we are saying, though, is if you choose to do it, you're assuming some liability for yourself. You're putting this agency in a whole lot of liability, and we want to make sure that you know exactly what you're doing and what you're getting into before you start going into all of this effort for a misdemeanor. Granted, if somebody breaks a major law or victimizes somebody, absolutely we're going to arrest that person and book them into the jail like we're doing here. But with that being said, there's a whole lot of work that needs to get done to make an arrest under this, what amounts to a misdemeanor charge. So again, our policy is going to lay out exactly what a deputy's authorities are and what they are not. I still disagree with the way this law was written and put out. The federal government, the federal law lays out pretty substantially, pretty clearly that as local law enforcement officers, we don't have the authority to arrest somebody solely for immigration issues. Right? If they break another law, that's something totally different. But just solely based upon immigration issues, the federal law lays out that we don't have the authority to do that. I don't see how a state law can come along and go, yeah, never mind what the feds say. Here's what the state law says. I just don't see how that's possible. But with that being said, yes, we do have a new policy that will go into place as soon as this law passes. If the law gets tossed out, then all of our work on our new policy was all for naught, but that's okay. I just want to make sure that we're clear. The second part of what we're doing is the report that a deputy will have to prepare should they decide to try to enforce this law as well. There's an extensive report, and we want to know what made you decide to start asking these questions. What are you basing it upon? And it's a pretty extensive report. A supervisor will have to make the scene out there. A supervisor will have to write the report as well. Again, there's a lot of liability that a law enforcement officer is assuming in trying to enforce some of these things that are in this law. We want to make sure that we're all covered.
Sí, igual, pero en español. O sea, la situación, si esto se aprueba, acabas de decir, ¿qué es lo que tienes ya preparado y qué es lo que le vas a decir o a preparar a tus oficiales en caso de que uno de ellos decida hacer algo?
Si esta ley llega a pasar, nosotros estamos preparados. Nosotros tenemos una póliza nueva que todavía ahorita estamos acabando esa póliza, pero ya si llega a pasar esta ley, esa póliza va en efecto. Esa póliza los guía a los oficiales cómo manejar ese caso si llegan a hacer esas preguntas. Para mí es algo difícil poner tanto esfuerzo en arrestar a una persona por un delito menor. Y también hay mucha liability,
mucha
responsabilidad que le cae no nomás al oficial, pero a nuestra agencia, Con esa responsabilidad queremos darles a saber a nuestros oficiales qué son los problemas que ellos se pueden encontrar, esta agencia se puede encontrar si hacen algo mal en ese caso. Entonces, para nosotros, esa póliza los va a guiar totalmente en cómo manejar esa situación. Pero también hay un reporte que se tiene que preparar, dándoles a saber que tienen que dar justificación por todo lo que hicieron en hacer preguntas de inmigración. Mira, la ley federal en este asunto de inmigración nos dice muy claramente en la ley federal que nosotros como oficiales locales no tenemos la autoridad a arrestar a una persona solamente por asuntos de inmigración. Entonces, para mí, no sé cómo el estado de Texas piensan y el gobernador piensan que ellos nomás con decir esto, que sí podemos, que va a quitar la ley federal y con las limitaciones que nosotros tenemos. Entonces, para mí, por eso hay mucha responsabilidad si un oficial piensa que él va a arrestar personas por estos asuntos. Nosotros, obviamente, si alguien comete un asalto, un robo, un homicidio, los vamos a arrestar, pero para mí es mucho trabajo por un delito menor que nomás vamos a meter más personas en nuestra cárcel por algo bien menor.
¿Se puede prestar esta ley para que un oficial abuse de poder?
Bueno, por eso tenemos esta póliza y reportes que se tienen que hacer para subajar o reducir las chances que un oficial vaya a abusar sus poderes.
Is there anything in particular you're looking at with the clause coming into effect?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's, for example, I think the law, the way it's written, says that basically, in a nutshell, you have to physically see that person coming into the country illegally. Well, how are you going to see that from a couple hundred miles inland from the border? And so we want to, if a deputy thinks that they have the authority, okay, write the report and tell us what makes you think you have the authority to arrest somebody for crossing a border that's 150 miles away, 120 miles away. Again, these are just things that a deputy's got to think about before they take that on as a responsibility. You're taking on a whole lot of liability and putting this agency in a lot of liability for a misdemeanor crime. And so, you know, while we can't necessarily tell people you're not allowed to enforce this law, what we can do is make sure that you cover all the bases. It's going to be a lengthy report. It's a very detailed process that has to take place in order for you to try to make an arrest under this. So we'll see what ends up happening. Quite frankly, I hope that the law doesn't pass. I think it's going to create more harm than good, to be honest with you.
And I know there's a lot of concerns about racial profiling.
Sure.
And you know, the whole thing that goes into that. Do you have any thoughts on that as the sheriff, for the public and for, you know?
Absolutely. I want to make sure that we're not crossing the line on racial profiling. Because look, racial profiling is still illegal. And again, we don't want a deputy that thinks that they have authorities that actually don't exist crossing the line over into racial profiling and getting themselves and the agency in a whole lot of trouble for, again, a misdemeanor. You know, and so our policy and this report are going to go overboard in some instances in making sure that officers know exactly where our authorities are and where they are not. And, you know, just we're going to lay it all out. Again, we want to know, before you start asking somebody immigration questions, why did you decide to ask them that? If your answer is, well, their skin is brown or they spoke with an accent, that's the wrong answer. And you're going to get yourself in a whole world of trouble doing it that way.
Si lo que dijiste, un oficial le empieza a preguntar ciertas cosas como que...
Bueno, para nosotros, haciendo perfil por la raza de una persona es ilegal todavía. Aunque pase esta ley, si va a pasar esta ley, eso es algo ilegal. Entonces, por eso en el reporte, nosotros, el oficial tiene que poner tiene que justificar por qué les hizo esas preguntas a esta persona. Si la respuesta a esa pregunta es porque tenía la piel café o porque hablaba con acento, eso es ilegal y eso va a traerle muchos problemas, no nomás a ese oficial, pero a nuestra agencia. Por eso tenemos que hacer este reporte con mucho detalle. Any other questions? Oh, you had, or you want to wait till afterwards?
It's up, yeah.
Okay, okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll come back.
Everything's gonna be sent via which